to learn the martial arts.
Big surprise. Huge surprise.
I'm starting to get in a bad mood, you know? Maybe it's like a mood swing, my hormones, I don't know. You know, maybe it's my need to impose my will.
Streaming live from the Pine Hills Palace, just west of Orlando, Florida. You're listening live to Kicking It. I'm Rob, your host. Tonight, with me, as usual, is the Doctor. Good evening, sir. How are you?
I just got one word for you. Ninja.
You know, I'm so glad we're doing this movie because this was one that we kind of had put on the backseat for quite some time, and glad we just kind of came up with it because, you know what? I forgot how good of a movie American Ninja is with Michael Dudikoff, and we're going to have a lot to talk about this and the time that we have here together, sir. So let me start off first by let me ask you, because you weren't around in the 80s, but obviously you've seen a lot of 80s action films. What did you think of this movie and how it compared to other 80s things at the time?
Well, I watched the 90s, so after seeing a lot of the other 90s movies, I compared to the 90s more than the 80s. But I gotta say, out of all the American Ninja movies that I've watched, the sequels, this is always been the best. And I'm not saying because it's less corny. No, it's the same equal level of corny. When it comes to Michael Dudikoff, you know, it's not meant to be like, you know, an A-list movie. It's always going to be like a B-list movie. Like when you watch Bruce Campbell, it's a B-list. It's you know, B-list horror. This is a B-list action, and it knows it. You know, I some people don't like Dudikoff. I enjoy his movies. You know.
One of the things I'd say about Dudikoff in here, to your point, is that this is the first film that he did where he didn't know any martial arts at the time. He studied a butt since then, but he's very athletic and he's like a natural to me. Like I see absolutely nothing wrong with him in this performance in this film at all, especially the physical stuff. I think he does a good job.
Yep, it's just so weird. I started off watching his older movies. When I went back to go watch his original movie list, and I saw this, and I was like, dude, like his voice is just so young. It's like, you know, compared to like how gritty he is when he's old in the other movies.
Right.
And when he gets to like 1995, whatever, Bounty Hunters and all that stuff, it's like, dude, some of the best soundtracks are from his movies, though.
The soundtrack is good in here because it's not really a musical soundtrack like with you know, pop hits or anything like that, but just there's a lot of scenes I noticed where I'm going, should they be playing music right now? And music's playing like while like two people are talking in a bar, and I'm like, no, this is perfect. It's great. It's just it really adds a lot to this film, and we like to point that out when it does. T's joined us in channel. Yeah, he's saying it was such a great movie series. I agree with you, and I just watched it a few hours ago, just kind of going through it, going, okay, did I remember this the same way I remembered seeing it way back when? And I got to say this, the whole thing with 80s that we covered on Kicking It early on was Chuck Norris films, specifically The Octagon. And there's been some other things too. The Last Ninja, I think on ABC, is a TV movie and a TV show in the early 80s about ninjas, which was really bad. But we still watch it. You know why? Ninjas. I got to tell you, this movie, it's a canon classic, first of all, because basically almost anything canon does is a classic, but it's an 80s canon classic in that it's got everything that, to me, says what the 80s is all about. Dudikoff in here to me does not come across as like an arrogant dude bro douchebag prick. He seems like almost kind of like the he is really like a quiet, not even surfer dude bro, but just kind of a quiet loner type, and he does it well. And I think one of the best things about this movie overall with Dudikoff performances is that it plays to his strengths, that he didn't know the martial arts, but he was very athletic, and of course he does a lot of stunts. There's a lot of practical stunts in here. But just in general, I think he really carries the film well, and I think for a launching point for him into the rest of this franchise and other things he did, to put it in the 80s is perfect because you've got ninjas, you've got girls with makeup that aren't worth saving, you've got more ninjas, you've got evil ninja camp, you've got French bad guy has not only one but two guys, on his payroll in the army. That when we go up the boss food chain, we find out what's going on. It's a buddy cop movie. His buddy Jackson. Who is the
I'm gonna
black
get
guy
you,
in here?
sucker.
He died early, but he's fantastic in here. It's really a big time bromance if you want to look at it from that angle. So this movie's got so many things. All I gotta say is, if his name is Joe and his buddy's name is Jackson, you have Joe Jackson, who was a British singer that had pop hits in the '80s called, like, Real Men
Come
and
on,
what's that?
this is Kung Fu Joe. I'm gonna get
Stepping
you,
out.
sucker.
Yeah, I know, right? T knows this back really, really good. Wow, and Jim's in. Hey, good evening, Jim. Yeah, so this is a movie because right off the bat you got a great little opening gambit where this convoy gets hijacked by a bunch of acrobatic ninja. And these are, of course, some of the dopiest dumb ninjas ever. While they've got great costumes and all the outfits, this takes a good 5 to 7 minutes. And, of course, Dudikoff manages to escape with the general's daughter. And she's one it's not worth saving. She's the chicken weird science, by the way, one of them. So you recognize her. She looks that way.
Yeah.
And he doesn't really speak for like the first 20 minutes of the movie. He just stares and
I,
stuff.
who's also from Weird Science?
Who?
Joe, this guy here, his friend Jackson.
Oh, is he?
C. James. Yes, he's a guy at the table. Uncredited.
Oh, okay. I know. I mean, I've seen him before in lots of things, but
He's
yeah,
a
now that you
TJ
mention
Hooker
it,
and all that stuff. Yeah, dude.
yeah. Um,
He's also apparently he's friends with Chuck Norris because he was Bobby in Delta Force.
yeah, this guy, great physique, great believable guy. But like I've said before, a lot of the buddy type shows that are out there that I think really excel, and I always use the Sherlock Holmes is the Jeremy Brett series off of PBS back in the day from the late '80s, early '90s. When you have a buddy cop, the buddy can't be at a worse level or like a supplicant to you, and you're like the master. You got to be like equal, but maybe you have different skills. We've talked about when Robert Conrad passed away, when we did a tribute show for him, how Artemis Gordon was just as strong as him, but in a different way, and they complement each other with it. So the whole bromance thing here works, especially for the end scene. But yeah, I mean, it totally turns 80s, not just with the acrobatic ninja, but when the Black Star Ninja, the main guy's watching all this stuff goes on. He breaks the arrow, which is a great shot, and he runs off in the woods with the girl. When the Black Star Ninja, the first thing out of his mouth is, "He possesses great skills." I'm like, okay, it's on. So what did you think about this whole opening scene and first act of the movie?
Like you said, it's hokey, but I was kind of digging it, man. I love Dudikoff, even though people say like, oh, he's a hack, he's he's a fraud, whatever. It's like, dude, like he's like I said, he's like the American version of like Jackie Chan to me. Like he's tough when he has to be. He stands up for people and stuff, But in the later movies, you see him like in Bounty Hunters. He's kind of like the guy. He's like he doesn't want to do it, and then he gets roped into it, and he is forced to do stuff. It's like you said, he's this is like your PG ninja guy.
PG ninjas. Pretty good.
he's Yep. He's not no Chuck Norris, but he's above Seagal. He's not because I'd rather watch. Is he takes basically the personality of Chuck Norris when it comes to that. Like, so he's not. He doesn't share the same kind of moves though.
Right.
So as I look at him, like he's like the Chuck Norris like step down. Just as far as movies go, because Chuck Norris is always a positive guy, but but as soon as you piss him off, yeah, then he's one guy taking on like many, and that's getting this movie. So
yeah, that was something too. A lot of people, I think, when they think of the '80s, they think of big explosions, they think of muscles, they think of just testosterone and machismo. I'm going to kick your ass sort of thing. And actually, when you go back and you look at, say, some of the Chuck Norris films and some of the other films we've talked about, it's not that way. It's why you pushing? It's like you push me. Okay, now I got to unleash hell. Unleash the fury on you, and that's kind of what happens here. We find out that he's had amnesia because he was a bomb on the side of the road where they're blowing some up to lay a road in the Philippines. He was unconscious as a kid. And the judge, he bounced around some foster homes, and he had to end up going into the military. So here he is in an army with all these guys, and It's just a complete shit show. I mean, there's all this ninja fighting, and the ninja fight scene here is good because not only do we see tons of dopey ninjas, you get to see, and this is one thing we've talked about with Norse films that we really appreciate. They pick out some aspect and they really go in detail about it. And here, you get to see all the different types of ninja weapons, and not just this opening scene, but later. So you got the ninja in the coconut tree shooting the arrows. You got, the guy with everything going on, and for the most part, okay, it's ninja style, but the fight scenes aren't bad, and a lot of the stunt work I thought was
Yeah,
enjoyable
it's
to
not over the
watch.
top.
Yeah,
It's not
it's
like
good enough.
it, but this like the scene. There's a scene in the movie where he gets attacked by the ninjas in the warehouse, and the guy thinks he's gonna steal his truck with all the military stuff,
Right.
the weapons, and like the guy realizes like, oh crap, he's beating up all the ninjas, so he puts like the what you call it, the crowbar, and then bends it so he can't get out. And what does he do? He climbs up to the roof and gets out that way. And he's able to jump onto the bike that the other dude's going to drive away. So they're fighting the bike. Here comes and they're still going after the truck and stuff. It's just like it's intense action. It's not like, as I said, it's not over the top. It's just enough to move the plot along. You know,
Yes,
but
exactly.
I still enjoy it though. It's like is it cheesy? Yes. It's not serious. It's not like so, but it's
Well,
it
it's not
was
life or
but
death, gonna,
no,
change the
it's
world
a
kind of nonsense crap, right?
and this movie was rated R. Came out in theaters 1985. It was released for, what is it? It was like $1 million or something like that, and it
Made
it
like
was a
10,
budget
11, yeah.
10.5 million, yeah, domestic. So this was the first job by director Sam Furstenberg for the series. So like I said, like the only thing that was lacking in this movie was the main bad guy, the guy who was dealing with the general. You know,
Ortega, well, the evil French guy,
yeah,
because as
yeah.
soon
The
as we
even
do the
French guy, his voice is just couldn't get. I'm like, where was Christopher Walken, man? At least he has a better funny voice.
well, you always had these bad business deals in the 80s that were so big, like not just in TJ Hooker with
I know,
Amps and
and
all that, but you had them in Miami Vice, you had them everywhere, and it was just, we're going to sell arms, we're going to steal them and do it. And it was always it
yeah,
seemed to
I
be so
know.
convenient, but it's true and it works.
That's that's what I was thinking too. Is like it's like in the '80s, like yeah, there's always trying to sell arms, shipping illegal arms, military weapons. Oh my gosh, it's like it's a trope that's used over and over again. But like, and you get the bad speaking foreign national is like, oh, ground international terrorist wanted by Interpol. Coming to America is like, yeah. It's either it's drugs or it's guns or it's both. It's like,
Well, after
but
the assault on it, they find out, or basically that we suspect, of course, his boss there is going to be a bad guy, and of course he is, and then the guy above him is too, which is a little bit of a twist. But okay, all the people there in his unit basically don't like him because he doesn't talk, he doesn't do whatever. So this guy Jackson comes around and he's like picks a fight with him, or whatever, because he said, "Hey, you got people killed out there, or whatever." And it's kind of a dopey scene where he just like has like 4 or 5 different takes down just to show us how Dudikoff does his business, and he does it like with a garden hose, and he puts the helmet or the water bucket on his head, and is still able to get out of it.
mhm.
But what makes it so 80s is the fact that Jackson, who probably outweighs him by about 40 pounds, is this just hulking guy, almost to the Apollo Creed style. He basically says, "Hey, all right, man, that's a cool deal. I never met somebody like that." And it's a big bonding exercise, and you're like, okay, they're bros now, and it's cool. He respected the fact that
Mhm.
somebody was able to, outbeat him at a particular thing, and then rather than being a cheap shot artist later on or something stupid, that elevates this movie, and because he becomes an important figure for later on, and then we get just enough of the plot where we know, okay, arms are being sold, the evil French guy's walking around. The other thing too about this, I'm assuming it was filmed in the Philippines. I don't look up specific locations, but
Yeah, it was.
you got some great
It was
scenes here of the boss lair up on top of the mountainside overlooking this beautiful panorama, and you've got flowers everywhere, you've got the mountain breeze, they're talking, and I just love it when somebody has a kick-ass crib like we talked about in Invisible Man, a nice little setup. And of course you've got the gardener waiting around in the pool not speaking, who we knows technically the guy that raised Dudikoff, but we won't know that till the end. So this second act is basically he drops the whiny chick off at home, but of course she's got the
Oh,
hots for him because she saw his abs. It's all about them hooking up while we see the ninja group develop.
you know what's funny is the people who produced this Canon also produced Delta Force and Invasion USA. That's why I kind of felt like that a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. And Canon Films, I I know there was a documentary I think somebody had mentioned to us recently on one of our streams that was worth watching on Netflix or
Yep.
something. I have not checked it out yet, but man, like I said, it's got Canon on it. So what do you have? You have Ninja School. So these,
Ninja Trilogy was. Remember those movies?
yeah. Oh yeah, we
Into
haven't
the
even done the
Ninja Revenge.
Shokasugi ones yet either. I know we got a
Yeah,
ton of them to
yeah.
do.
Canon did these. It just there's like these are so it just yeah. So basically, this is they also did Missing in Action. So basically, this is Chuck. They worked with Chuck Norris, so they kind of at this time knew how to do this stuff.
Yes.
So was it low budget though? Yeah, was it Chuck Norris? But it was still enjoyable, and people enjoyed it. But
I compared these to
yeah,
like the Hammer films, back in the 50s, 60s, and even earlier and later, where they would make them on small budgets, but they'd return a lot. But they knew how to make that type of movie. So in here, we see that his friends kind of like him. At first, they were giving him a bunch of crap, saying, "Hey, the princess you saved, does she put out for you for saving her life?" I mean, just the kind of talk that you would expect to hear, not just because they're in the military or they're 20-year-olds, but just because he did save her life, and she's kind of hot but annoying. But then she softens up to him. Of course, she's the general's daughter, and all that. But yeah, so basically, she figures out a way to get him off base so they can kind of have a little bit of a date. And while they're on the date, they see evil French guy with his boss, and so he knows he's crooked. And again, Dudikoff doesn't really have to say a lot in this movie, and he really doesn't. He's got a soft voice, I'd say, mild mannered, the way his delivery is. And so Jackson, his buddy, does a lot of the manly talking and the gruffy stuff. But yeah, I mean, it just works. There's chemistry on the screen through most of them. The bad guys are probably the weakest element, but who cares? Because we get the bit players coming in looking to buy the arms that he's getting set up for stealing. And we have this ninja camp. So while the people are talking, this is another beautiful shot where they're walking around and you see the ninjas. They've got the ninja obstacle course. They got the ninja swings with the spikes on them going back and forth. They show you everything in the ninja camp that they're doing with tons of ninjas in different group colors and stuff. Of course, we'll have the big fight at the end. We'll go through all that, which is why they show it, and that's beautiful. We know, oh, this is great. I'm gonna see it twice. But then the guy who's the Black Star Ninja, he was in the Octagon and some other things as well. He does a demonstration in front of the guys to as a show of strength. And even though it's staged, of course, just the way the guy's physically working, it's believable on screen with his moves. And I know you mentioned you like Dudikoff a lot more than Seagal because Seagal's a bit of a prick. I don't disagree with that assessment of his attitude. I happen to like
this,
Seagal, but Seagal's believable with his moves. But we think he runs like a girl and everything else,
well,
supposedly.
the
But here,
reason
this
reason I like
guy's
Dudikoff
legit.
the reason I like Dudikoff more because he's more of a cheerful guy. He's more likable. Where Seagal
Yes,
is
he
just
is
kind of like
likable.
scouring all the time, and he's
Yes.
like, "Well, I don't care. I'll do what I want. I'm above the law, Colonel."
Fuck you and die. I always kind of like that though about Seagal. Well, I mean, yeah, Dudikoff is likable. I don't think he's a dud on screen, but if he was sitting here talking a whole bunch, it really wouldn't have done anything for the film.
Yo,
Yeah. So anyway, we get through this, and the movie's only an hour and a half, so the pacing's I think pretty good. We get the scene where they're setting him up to kill him, and he has to drive this truck of produce or whatever goods over to like Dock 5 or whatever. And of course, you got these two goofball guys pointing in there, and he's like, "Hey, where's Warehouse 5 or whatever?" And he goes in there,
hmm
and of course, it's a giant set piece because as soon as he goes into the warehouse, all these ninja come out of everywhere, and it's like what we said before with the first assault. All these ninja come out of the woodwork with all their different weapons, the blow darts, the katanas, everything, and he just takes them apart. And I got to say again, for somebody that hasn't had training, he moves very athletically, and it's very believable watching him. And also,
right?
without 50 million fists flying, you get some neat shots. Like there's a scene where he's like walks through a door and you see a bunch of glass, so you see his silhouette on the shadow of it going across, and then it pans to the left and you see some ninja shadows going to the right, and then you hear a bunch of stuff and then they throw it through the window. So even though that's gimmicky and you're not seeing the fight because it's only
Well,
lasts a few seconds,
yeah,
it's effective and it's a little different than all the other
the,
sequences.
the only flaw I saw and that I really, really, that really just weirded me out is when uh you see Dudikoff and all. He's at his girlfriend's place. He's with Joe and his girlfriend, Patricia.
Mm-hmm.
And then Patricia's dad comes home and they're gonna arrest him because this is after he escaped from the barracks.
Yes.
After the ninja tried to kill him. And they're like arrest him. So he jumps to the window, and you see him. He goes to the jeep, and he starts driving away. Joe just randomly kicks the guy with the M16. Is like for no reason because the guy he did not have Michael Dudikoff's character in sight whatsoever. I was like, he just kicks it. I was like, what? It was just so out of place. It's like if he had fired a shot off, that would have been more realistic, but.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know who choreographed it. Like they thought, if he kicked his gun randomly, and make it look like he prevented him from shooting him, but Joe was already gone, or what's his name? Dudikoff was already gone in the jeep. He was already around the corner. So that was a little. I don't know if that was a goof or what that was about, but I noticed that. I've never noticed it before. I was like, wait, why is he kicking the gun?
I know. I noticed a few goofs too. I noticed where when he's taking the chopper that Joe gets him, and he goes to jump over the fence with the on the bike. You see it land and all that, and I was snapping a still of it, and I said, "Oh, this one's blurry. Let me redo it again." So I backed up and did it, and I went, "Holy crap! That's so obviously just a dummy. It's bad."
Yeah,
But
right.
in this Pier 6 slobber knocker brawl fest. He's manages to get out and survive most of the ninjas, but the bad guys that locked him in there, two of them, are driving his jeep away with all the goods on it. So he's trying to catch him, and I thought this was kind of cool, even though it seems kind of dopey the way it sounds. He jumps into the motorcycle that has the buddy seat in it, and he has a fight with the guy in it while he's driving and kicks him out. And he kind of forces him the way the fight goes to go into the buddy seat, and he starts driving, but it just so happens the other guys turn around to try to ram him, and one guy just gets totally smashed off of it. I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool. And tons of produce everywhere in 4 or 5 places, which again is in every single 80s show, even on the Equalizer and everything else. It was entertaining. It's like, yeah, it's not original, but I don't care. Yeah, so
Was that now? What was that Bloodsport where we get a picture of a young Jean-Claude Van Damme sneaking in the guy's house to steal a sword, or was that that was Bloodsport, wasn't it?
oh, I think so. Yeah,
Because
they steal
the reason I
sword
bring
in
it
the
up
Xtreme.
because that kid looked dopey as heck for being a young Jean-Claude Van Damme. The kid that get to play the young Dudikoff in this, he has the big opie ears. In this movie.
Yeah, so we
It's
get the
like
training montage at the end of the movie where they show him as a kid because the gardener for the gardener for the evil French guy is really his father, and he's like, come, and he because he hides out on a truck after the collision or whatever, and he ends up going into the evil boss lair and finds out what's going on, escapes those ninja, and so we know it's leading up to the final boss fight. But yeah, he leads them to like a cave where he gets away, goes on base. To your point, they go to the father, and I have to say this as an aside because this is very important for 80s films. When you had an 80s film, not necessarily martial arts, but it involved the military, there's a scene in here when you're looking at it where his boss calls him in and he's ripping him an asshole. Hey, I'm going to court-martial you. You're going to get under arrest. And of course, you see pictures of like his beautiful daughter when she's young and when she's a teenager and all that stuff. So we know, okay, this is supposed to be the father. But then you have a picture of the president at the time, which is Ronald Reagan, or some people say Ronaldus Magnus. And of course, when he's walking out, the Ronald Reagan picture is like 14 times bigger than any other picture on the wall. And it's that same picture of Ronald Reagan you will see in every film in the 80s.
Dude, I was reading about this now. The reason why this movie did so well, because it was supposed to be a Chuck Norris movie. The studio wanted Chuck Norris, but Chuck Norris is there's some sources saying that he didn't want to cover his face.
Oh, like yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
So because he was a big star at that time, so they want to cover up his face, you want to show who he was, So, but so they got because they got Dudikoff, who was athletic but he had no experience, So fight choreographer Mike Stone, who was accomplished martial arts expert,
Big time.
shared the producers that he would pick up the moves, and he did.
Yeah, yeah. Now that Mike
It was
Stone
originally
guy's
called
weird dude, but yeah.
in the originally called American Warrior and was released in UK cinemas under that title, but it was changed to American Ninja for all other releases. So that was cool.
Yeah, I mean,
Also, but if you watch it in Germany, when we listened from Germany, it was called American Fighter.
well, Ninja by this time were so big. I mean, especially from the '70s going into the '80s, and then they started to die off. I think there were some ninjas here and there, but to me, when we get to this final fight, what's interesting about it is, of course, it's the typical boss chain. You got to go to the mountainside. You got to go through everybody. He's going to have the big fight with the Black Star Ninja, which he
Yep, yep.
does, and I'm like, what the hell's going on? This thing's going over the top because they're having a pretty good fight. They end up fighting on the rooftop, and the Black Star Ninja guy's got he's got the shuriken, he's got this, he's got that, he's got all your typical weapons, the kama, he's got the sai, everything. The gardener guy went to the ninja buffet table with Joe and let him pick out all these weapons, so they're both armed to the hilt and they use them all. But then I'm like, what the hell? He's got the flamethrower coming out of his wrist, and
So
then
that
he's
guy
got
was
the ninja laser beam coming out. I'm like, what the hell is that? He didn't need that in here. That's too much. No ninja has a laser beam, like
so
like Peter Parker,
I know.
Spider-Man. You know what I'm saying? But it's '80s. It works.
So that guy, the Black Star Ninja, also known as Tadashi Yamashita,
hmm
dude was originally born in Japan, moved to they moved out of there, because right after before the war started happening. But he's actually legit like ninja and like everything. He did 40 years of practice of Okuruwan Karate and Kubudo. He's a 10th Dan in both Karido and Kubudo. So the dude's he's been to South America, he's been all stuff. So he's legit.
Yes.
So it's like I wonder if he was helping out within the moves and stuff as far as that. But
Well, you see some
wow.
practical effects in here too. I mean, so it's not like it. I mean, you have your over-the-top couple of explosions. You're gonna get that, but really, like I say, a lot of the fights and everything else, it's for the most part practical, and I think it really works. Especially the helicopter at the end. That I wasn't expecting all that. Where the evil French guy, steals the girl who'd been kidnapped after the fight, and he gets on a helicopter, and again, it may have only been for a few seconds, but if you go back and watch the scene, the a ninja, which is supposed to be the ninja Joe, we don't know if it's actually him or not, jumps on a helicopter as the helicopter's taken off, and you can literally see nothing underneath it. And I don't think it's green screened, so I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool that they did that, and then they're actually kind of fighting their way around on the outside of the helicopter, and it looks cool the way they did that, especially for the '80s back then. Yeah, it's cheesy. The guy can't shoot him, he misses or whatever, but then
Yeah,
they
yeah.
have to jump off before his bro takes the RPG and blasts him out of the sky. I mean, excuse me, blasts the model airplane out of the sky.
Yeah, yeah. So this movie was such a great hit with everybody that they made a whole show about it called American Ninja Skin.
There was a show that Lee Van Cleef in it called The
No,
Master or something
I'm talking about
with a
I'm talking
ninja.
about
I
the
know.
current competition.
I
Yeah, I
know
know.
the obstacle course, but they did it. I think in the '90s also. They had some sort of obstacle course. I don't know if it was a ninja either, but it's
I
like
can't.
I wanted to almost call the show Extreme Ninja because the word ninja sells, or at least it used to back in the '80s. Because there's something like boobies or violence or whatever like that to a guy just automatically you know clicks with our consciousness. If it's got ninja on it, we want to see it. Am I wrong?
No, but I was gonna say that, but I mean, I like I said, like there's gonna be some people who didn't like this movie, just like there was when it first came out. There were people they didn't like, and those are people were like, "Are you an idiot?" Just kidding. No, no. As I said, Dudikoff has always been like, yeah, he's the B list, like Jean-Claude Van Damme's better than him, and I'm like, I actually kind of like Dudikoff a little bit more than Jean-Claude Van Damme out there in some movies. I think some of JCVD's movies were kind of like the same, similar. You just
hmm
changed the villain.
hmm
They were kind of like cookie cutter. Uh, but like you said, like this Dudikoff, it's like you accept him for what he is. He's not an expert, but the dude, like I said, after he did this, started doing these movies, he went out and started learning, which I give him respect for that because a lot of people are just like, well, I'll get a stunt double do it for me, you know.
Yeah, and that's again over the '80s in general. We talk a lot about we had guys that had great physiques, were good looking. I mean that's a standard just for seeing something on film. I think the standards obviously have been a lot lower the past 20 plus years. Not that there aren't good looking guys or well built guys, but it seemed like back then you take a film like this. Dudikoff's a good looking guy, great physique. Obviously he's learning how to be an actor starting in this film, but it worked. And here's the thing: you surround him with people that are legit in their own right, like his partner, like the Black Star Ninja, like several other people in there. And even though they might have been in several other canon films or other 80s action type films, and there's a pool of people to draw upon, I don't see anything wrong with that because most of them are what I would call average looking people. Maybe they got a decent body, maybe they don't. But I mean, you got to see all sorts of people in here. It's a very multicultural type film with different races and creeds and all that. I mean, the only thing in this film you don't really see is a woman kicking ass necessarily. But other than that, it's like, it's not, oh, straight white guy beats up, one group of people and everything else. Like some people reduce Invasion USA to, oh, he goes crazy with guns and shoots everything. Well, yeah, it's true. But it's a little different, when you lived it and you've gone through it. And again, you see a culture that's not America where it was filmed that gives it nothing but positive things, in my opinion. And yeah, I really had forgotten how, like I said, how good this film was. To me, it's got a good soundtrack. Sometimes they're playing music when I'm going, well, should they be playing music now? But for some reason, it works. It's uplifting. It's mostly a keyboardish type 80s electronic score in some spots, and that's it. But yeah, this movie's tight. It goes fast. And again, I've talked about micro
Uh-huh.
budgets type films. Most of the time, they're usually pretty good and entertaining.
Yep. I forgot that he was on Happy Days. He was Joni's first boyfriend.
He's been around.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean,
And he's dude. A lot of people don't know about Dudikoff. He suffers. He's had dyslexia, so he's got to deal with that for most of his life. So I don't have any problems with him as far as acting stuff if he got mixed up.
T saying it's definitely better than Watchmen. I haven't seen it, but you know what? I bet you're right. Do a capital T, as we would say. Yeah. So, final thoughts about this film here, Doctor. What American Ninja, Michael Dudikoff. What would you want to say to everybody out there if they could only hear
American.
you for a minute?
It's a lightheart movie, even though it's radar. It's a lightheart. The violence is not over the top. People do get stabbed, but they don't bleed. So if it's kid friendly,
It is. It's not a gore fest.
they don't like. Like I said, like this is literally like a movie that was written for Chuck Norris, but Chuck Norris didn't want to do the movie. So they got him to jump in, and I think he did well. And I love his cheesy personality, his stupid grin. It helps with the movie. He's
Oh
got the handsome
shucks.
looks, you know.
He's like if he's like if Leave It to Beaver, grew up and kicked ass or something. It'd be about the right timeline, right? I mean,
With the hat on still.
oh gee,
Leave
why
it,
are you doing
leave it, the,
that? Let me slice your throat.
leave, leave it the beaver into the ninja.
The old French guy would be Eddie
Golly.
Haskell.
Oh man, no, like I said, he was an action star from I think 1986 to 2000s. He did some of his soundtracks on his movies he did were pretty good. Um, Especially at the 90s, the early 90s. I think it was Event. No, it wasn't Avenging Force because he was also in some other stuff.
Mhm.
I'm just trying to remember which one came out like in the early 90s. I was watching. There's one I was watching. It might have been one of the American Ninjas. It might have been Avenging Force. Oh no,
So
no,
have you
no, no,
seen the?
no, nope. It was a Human Shield. That's what it was. 1991.
Okay, so have you seen the other American Ninjas after this?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I've seen them. It's been a while since I watched them. I want to go back and go watch these. Dude, I want to get the collection of these on on DVD. Like there was a collector's like a thing. I saw somebody actually I was following Dudikoff on Twitter for a while. He had posted somebody actually a fan of his had every single movie of his on the shelf. And like he's in two shelves. He labeled it like Dudikoff. Dudikoff. I was like, you can hit every single movie on both shelves. They're all on, majority were on DVD and stuff, and like Dudikoff, being who he is, He knows he's not that big like action star. He was humbled by it. It's like he's not cocky. He's all go. I don't have to do this. I'm done. It's not. No, it's like no. He was happy. Dude was happy to be the roles he got. You know. Before he was even doing this, before he got discovered, he actually got discovered on a catwalk at a mall because his mom told him to try out for this modeling thing. That's how he got discovered. But before that, he was actually studying child psychology and stuff. You know, he came
Unlikely
from
action star is what it sounds like.
he came from a military family. So his dad was served. Um, they're Russian immigrants, basically. American born. He is. So yeah, dude, the dude got is that not to say cushy, but I'm saying like the dude's like left, what you would expect from anybody in these kind of movies like this. You get paid well, and he's still a humble guy. You don't see him, like I said, you don't see him getting into fights with people in bars. You know,
Hmm.
it's no, it's and everybody knew if you were actually starting in the '90s, you weren't that famous. You knew you were from some of these movies. Some of the movies, yeah, that was kind of dumb, but they were the movies you could go and watch with popcorn. These are popcorn flicks. So England would say, um, you loved watching these movies over and over again. They were great movies, but were they better than some? It varies what your opinion is. Like I could sit back and I could watch all these movies in a row. Over Avengers. I can be because these are shorter and more entertaining.
I agree with you totally, and I think that's a very strong point because we like to overemphasize the '80s because that's what the '80s is about is taking something to the next level, and um, there's glossy veneer on a lot of things '80s when underneath you're like, what the hell's going on? And it's like in a movie like this, yeah, okay, yeah, the ninjas jumping out during their first assault on the convoy there. They're obviously hitting trampolines and doing timed acrobatic flips, and it's so
Yeah,
unnecessary.
yeah.
But it's cool. You like seeing a human doing a physical stunt rather than a big green screen background with everything else there too. Like I said, there's something about the way the sunlight works bouncing off of stuff and the way it's filmed, the way it comes off the fabric of the people moving. You get to see human people in their bodies rather than all this other junk that's out there today. Um, and I know that it can be done very slick and stylish, like a John Wick movie. While that's great and it's awesome, I think that one of the best scenes in the last John Wick movie was the suit scene where he goes in there and his suit specialist guy outfits him with everything, and it's just kind of cool to me. It has nothing to do with action. While it's done well in some spots, it just you get tired of it. And here, we've said before, surprisingly, a lot of '80s movies that are action films there's not necessarily a lot of action to it, so it does have to rely on some other things. Not necessarily has to be plot heavy, but you got to kind of like the guy that's in it. That's to your point about why you're not the Seagal's biggest fan, but also as silly as it is, you
Hmm.
know that it's not trying to be more than it's supposed to be. And whether this is a damsel in distress or not, who cares? It's just fun to watch. And again, there's this movie is tight, it flows well, it's 90 minutes. If this were playing out in theaters over the summer versus almost everything, I'd go, wow, there's nothing in it that makes me go, oh, it's a man hater movie, oh, it's anti-woman, oh, it's PC,
Hmm.
oh, it's this, oh, it's that. No, it's a very simple, basic movie. Again, done well, and what more do we want? Nothing.
Oh,
I
he
think
was
it's
just in a
great.
movie. Wow, I didn't realize the last movie I saw from him was from Dudikoff because he's still doing movies. They're not the best movies. Like I said, these European movies. It was on Netflix. Navy SEALs versus Zombies. He did that for Anchor Bay Entertainment. That was in 2015. He was a supporting role, and then he was also played the main villain in Fury of the Fist and the Golden Fleece alongside Sean Stone, Dan Trejo, Michael Winslow, so Jason London, Bill Goldberg, and all those guys.
Yeah,
Cynthia Rothrick. Remember that? She's in there too.
yeah. I
Oh,
think the last thing
Richard Grieco. Yeah.
I'd say about the film is that to your point, he's done a lot of watchable stuff. It's really good, but this is an extreme first. I composed a poem in honor of Michael Dudikoff here on the Extreme Movie Show, and I'd like to read it to you now. Is that okay, sir?
Sure.
Okay. Me. I like ninja. Yes, I do. Who loves ninja? We do. We do. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Are you right? One of his last comments, he's been firing him off. Dudikoff is one person you'd feel comfortable enjoy a cup of tea with. Yeah, he seems like an approachable, Nice guy has a bad connotation to me, so I don't like to say it. But he seems like a reasonable, normal dude that you'd be like, yeah, okay, let's just sit down and bullshit and talk. Like you wouldn't be overwhelmed if you saw him, at the park or something like that. Oh, you Mr. Dudikoff? Hey, it's nice to meet you. Big fan of American Ninja. Could I get a picture, an autograph? He just seems like an approachable guy that way. Black Lotus was popping in saying, "Yay, Ninja" in all caps. I agree totally. So
So
yeah,
apparently in 2012 at a Q&A, Dudikoff said he doesn't lift weights, but he's a swimmer and does isometric and dance exercises. That's how he keeps his figure.
the rainbow colored ninja. Well, Black Lotus, I think it's American Ninja. I want to say it's 3 is the one that has the lady in it, and I want to say she's Red Ninja if I remember. But it's early. Yeah,
Avenging
we've just
Force was
started here, but
86.
still, huh?
Oh yeah. He did American Ninja, then he did Avenging Force, and then which it was a sequel that I know of because American Ninja 2 came out 87, 2 years later after this first movie.
Well,
And then he did so
if we
man,
cover
I
more of these, or when we do, I should
oh,
probably
we
say we'll
will
have
be
our own American Ninja channel. Because it's Ninja, we have to put it in the Ninja channel.
Extreme American Ninja.
Yeah. No, I liked it a lot. I think it's a great film. And I think the people in here talking tonight, especially T. Lotus, I mean, some others, Paulus in here, they really like this film a lot too. Very passionate about this film. At the time I saw it, I liked it. Honestly, I didn't think too much about it, but every once in a while in the 90s or even later, it'd come on cable, maybe I'd have it on for background. And only when we started talking about it a few months ago with some possibilities, it's come up. So I have another ninja movie or two in the pipeline. So maybe we'll do a couple more ninjas here before we branch off to a different kicking it on that too. But yeah, love this film. Think it's great. 80s canon classic. Go watch it. Go watch it again. And then let's talk more American Ninjas and let's talk more about the ninja films that we're going to do. Doctor, anything you'd like to sign off with?
Ninja.
The Octagon. Ninja, ninja, ninja. They're extinct, extinct, extinct. Yeah, ninja's great. Everybody, go have some ninja tea, and think of Dudikoff when you're pouring it, letting it steep. Good night, everybody. Stay extreme. Good night. See you in a little bit
Sayonara.
for our 8 o'clock stream with Eglinton from I Love Comics. Bye.